better now, Prabhu?
Yeah, better.
Just one invocation prayers. Om Jnana Timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Mahavishnu Goswami Niti Namine. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavani Paschatya Deshatarine. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivas Adi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare. Bhagavad-Gita Ki Jai. So tomorrow is we're all aware, a very, very important day for all of us, the followers of Bhagavad-Gita. And so tomorrow is the advent of the Bhagavad-Gita. And I thought we'll just take a quick journey into that place or see that place where Gita was actually spoken and have a bit of an information about the background of where the Gita was spoken, why was it spoken, and why is it so important and relevant to us today. So I would like to just share my screen. Can just anybody show me a hands up that it's all okay? Thank you. So we would be talking a little bit about Bhagavad-Gita, and I might ask a few questions in between just to make it a bit interactive. I know all of you know the answers, but if I hear some devotee voices, I feel a bit inspired. So if I do ask something, feel free to just unmute yourself and speak out as we go along. So, as we know, Bhagavad-Gita was spoken in a place, in a location. And what is that location? I mean, everybody knows it. I'm not going to ask you. But we know that it was spoken in Kurukshetra. But in Kurukshetra also, there was a specific place where Bhagavad-Gita was spoken. Does anybody know that? What is the specific place in Kurukshetra where Bhagavad-Gita was spoken? Anybody? No? I'll give you a hint. The name of the place starts with a J in English. Somebody? Oh, yes, Sita Mataji has chatted, sent a chat. It's Jyoti sir. So this is where all the action happened. So this is the place. This is exactly the place where Krishna gave Arjuna this wonderful philosophy, information, knowledge skills that he needed to perform his duty. There is a nice banyan tree in this place, and if you see in front of your screen, we'll zoom onto that. There is a nice kind of a glass house which has the chariot of Krishna and Arjun. And this banyan tree, apparently it is said, bears the testimony to that event that happened more than 5,000 years ago. So this is the close-up of that glass house that we saw in the last slide. See Arjun in the chariot, Krishna holding the reins and speaking to Arjun. Anybody knows which place is this? This is in Jyotisar. Can unmute or chat.
This is
or
Brahmakul, Prabhu.
Yes. So this is considered the center, the central hub, and there are of course different stories about this place. But essentially, this is any holy place. If we see, is associated with usually a water body. There is usually a mountain, so that the nature, like birds, beasts, all of them can live harmoniously and associate them with the sadhus. And sadhus, to perform their bhakti, they need these natural resources. So this is something that is common through all the places. And this is again a close-up of the banyan tree. It says the immortal banyan tree. Why? Because it witnessed the celestial song Bhagavad-Gita. So people still go and sometimes people say that Kurukshetra is just an analogy that is used in Bhagavad-Gita by Krishna. There is no such place, and the war didn't really happen. And there's a lot of speculative, intellectual arguments or propositions that people sometimes present. And if we are not aware of this knowledge in Guru Parampara, then we can get swayed by such arguments. But this just proves that actually there was a place like this, and this conversation between Krishna and Arjun actually happened in this place. So this place is this Kurukshetra, this Jyotisar is in Kurukshetra. Kurukshetra in turn is in a state called Haryana. And in Hindi language, Haryana means Hari Ka Ana. Means in the place where Hari came. Ana means to come. So this place, Hari actually came, and came to give the biggest gift to humankind. And that is a gift of Bhagavad-Gita. So why is this place also referred to as this Dharma Kshetra? In fact, the first verse, I'm sure all of you know this by heart. The first verse in Bhagavad-Gita starts off with this word. The first word of Bhagavad-Gita is what? Dharma Kshetre Kurukshetre. So the whole Song of God starts with this word. And sometimes people ask this question, why is it Dharma Kshetra? Why Kurukshetra is referred to as a Dharma Kshetra? Because there may be other Dharma Kshetras as well. But why specifically this is called so? And yes, there are many Dharma Kshetras. So Dharma Kshetra is nothing but a piece of land which is meant for, which is conducive and meant for cultivating Dharma. So there is a nice story in terms of why this place is called Dharma Kshetra and how the name came about. So as we know, Kurukshetra is named after King Kuru, after which the whole dynasty was referred to as Kuru dynasty, Kauravas. And until the enmity or animosity between the cousins happened, they were all called Kurus. But when the animosity happened, the enmity took place and they were divided into two factions. Only at that time or that point, they were called Pandavas and Kauravas. But before that, the whole dynasty of the clan was referred to as Kuru dynasty. So this Maharaj Kuru, he was a very, very amazing king, a Rajarshi, as most of the kings at that point of time they were. So King Kuru, he decided that, or he had this desire in mind that he would like to cultivate a place where people can peacefully practice dharma and they can cultivate the spiritual culture where there are eightfold virtues, that particular place. So he had his golden chariot, and using the gold, he made a plow. And with the golden plow, he wanted to plow this land and make it fertile so that the cultivation of dharma can become easy, not only in his time, but in times to come. So he was plowing the land very ardently, the king himself, you can imagine. It's not the king's job to actually plow the land. It's the job of the farmers, the Vaishyas. So he was doing it himself. And to plow the land, he took the bull from Lord Shiva and he took the buffalo from Lord Yamaraj. He just took it from them, requested to use them to do this wonderful activity, and he could give that back once it's done. So he took the plow, he took the bull, the buffalo, he was plowing. And when he was plowing, a personality came. You know, sometimes when we try and do some good things on our own, we always have some people coming in and inquiring, okay, what's going on? And we sometimes do the activity with the intent that, oh, I hope somebody comes and asks me. That is sometimes a hidden intent. And we feel nice when we are asked that question so that we can glorify what we are trying to do. But that's the Kali Yuga mentality, not what Guru Maharaj had. He was just peacefully, all alone, doing the plowing activity. And then Indra dropped by. Indra said, what are you doing? What are you taking this plow and what are you doing all this for? So Maharaj Guru said that, see, I would like to plow this and prepare this land which would have 8 virtues. It's a virtuous land where people can practice dharma and perform their austerities. So Indra said, okay, good. You're plowing the land and you want to make it fertile, but after plowing the land, you would need some seeds, right? How will this land become fertile without seeds? So do you have the seeds? The Guru said that, yes, I do have them in my possession. So he said, okay, then carry on. And Indra left. After some time, Vishnu was also very curious what's going on. So he came to meet Maharaj Guru and he asked him the same question. Maharaj Guru repeated the same desire that he was plowing the land for. And after Vishnu heard that, he said that, okay, where are the seeds? He said, I've got them. He said, okay, why don't you give me the seeds? I will personally plant them for you. Imagine Vishnu saying that. Okay. So Maharaj Guru said that, well, take my right hand. So the seed that he wanted to plant was his own right hand. And Vishnu, it is said that he, with his Sudarshan Chakra, I don't want to sound very violent and gory, but his hand was made into pieces and planted. And then he gave his other arm, then he gave his legs, and then eventually gave his whole body. Being a righteous king, he thought that his own body, he is willing to sacrifice himself so that others can get the benefit. And that is the compassionate nature of a Vaishnava. And when he gave up his body like this, and Vishnu planted, he was so pleased, so happy at the compassionate nature of his devotee that he said, I'm so happy with you. I not only bring you, obviously, give back your body, I would also request you to ask for 2 boons. And at that point, Maharaj Guru requested Vishnu to grant him 2 boons. Imagine if we were given that opportunity, would have thought about ourselves and said, what is it that I can ask that my 21 generations or more did not have to work hard, earn lots of money. But Maharaj Guru, he had all the opulences of the world, but he wanted something more valuable. And so he asked Vishnu the first boon. And what was the first boon? The first boon was that let this piece of land where you have personally sown the seeds always remain a holy place, a place of dharma. And from that time, this place, this kshetra, was referred to as Dharma Kshetra. So that was the first boon that Maharaj Guru asked. And the second boon was that anybody, doesn't matter who they are, how purified they are, how good or bad they are, anybody who comes and stays in Kurukshetra, who gives up their body in Kurukshetra, they will be liberated from the clutches of birth and death forever. This is my second boon. So as soon as Maharaj Guru asked for it, Vishnu was very happy. He agreed to this. So from that day onwards, this place Kurukshetra was referred to as Dharma Kshetra. That was the first word of Bhagavad-Gita. So interestingly, this narration, this Bhagavad-Gita, a lot of people think that this was for the first time told by Krishna to Arjuna. And before this narration, which is 5,000 years ago, it didn't exist. Sometimes people think like that, or they ask us that question. So that is not the case. Bhagavad Gita in chapter 4, Krishna himself tells Arjuna, Imam Vivashvate Yogam, Bhaktavan Ahamabhyam, Vashvan Manave Taha, Manur Ikshvakave Abravit. So he said that this knowledge, this transcendental knowledge, existed since time immemorial. And I, Krishna says, imparted this knowledge to Vivashvan, which is the sun god at the time of creation. So Bhagavad Gita is as old as this creation itself. And science, unfortunately, cannot really comprehend the actual time of creation. And so obviously they cannot put any figures to it. But we know in Bhagavad Gita, especially in the purport, Prabhupada gives us some figures. We'll not go there, but the number of zeros are mind-boggling. So you can understand how long back it was. So this Bhagavad Gita, as we understand, is the supplement, the essence of all Vedic knowledge. And Vyasadeva, he has compiled, or he has put this most important information, this philosophy, for the benefit of mankind within a broader historical narration. And that is the narration of Mahabharata. Anybody knows how many verses were originally there in Mahabharata? How many number of verses? Like everybody knows, Bhagavad Gita has how many verses? 700. But how many verses are there in Mahabharata? Anybody?
Prabhuji, 74,000 or something like that. I might be wrong.
You're close. Anybody else would like to try?
18,000.
18,000?
Yes.
No, you're quite far. Anybody else?
90,000.
90,000. Okay, you're getting close. Who said that? Sorry.
Oh, that was me, Prabhuji.
Oh, what?
Yes.
So now you're getting close.
It is 100,000.
100,000. See, now I gave it away, right? When I said 90,000 is close, means yes. There were 100,000 verses that Vyasadeva actually contemplated on, and conceived Mahabharata. Now, one thing we have to be very careful. Vyasadeva did not dream about Mahabharata in his mind. Mahabharata was a historical narration. He himself was part of Mahabharata, if you recollect. And Mahabharata itself was spoken for the first time by whom? First time. The whole Mahabharata, including Bhagavad-Gita, was spoken by it's written here, Vaishampayana Muni to King Janmejaya. That was the first time it was spoken, and Vyasadeva was there in that narration himself. So it is not that Vyasadeva just imagined something and wrote down. No, he was part of that historical narration. And we understand from Mahabharata that Vyasadeva was integral to that whole story. So sometimes when somebody writes about a biography, autobiography, or about a historical narration, they are not part of that narration. They hear from some people and they write it down based on what they have heard or understood. But Vyasadeva was actually part of this whole history. So how can he just dream and write something? No. So the whole incident as it happened and unfolded was already there in his mind. It is just that he wanted to put it in a written form. And for that, he wanted help. And that help was provided by none other than, as you see on the slide, and as is quite commonly known and very popular, he wanted somebody to write. And he approached Lord Brahma, and Brahma suggested there is no better person than Lord Ganesh to write this narration. And then we know how that story was, right? Where Vyasadeva, he contemplated Mahabharata, but he wanted to have somebody who can write down as he says. So, and as that person writes, Vyasadeva thinks about the next part of the narration and then recites it, and then that person writes again. So there's a bit of a time lag between his thinking, his narration, and writing. So he knew that he would like somebody like this. So Ganesh, he knew that, oh my God, if I have to write so much, and if this person has to think again on top of that, then it's going to be so long. So he put a condition. I will write, but as soon as my pen, should be said, or quill stops, I stop. And so Vyasadeva also was, he's a literal incarnation of the Supreme Lord. So he said, yeah, I agree to your condition, but my counter condition is this. When I narrate something, you have to understand it fully in the right context before you start writing. And so as he started to narrate, Lord Ganesh had to think about it, contemplate, understand, and then write. So in the time that he was contemplating and narrating, Vyasadeva could go on to the next part and next part. And like that, this Mahabharata was composed. And then, of course, in the recent past, there was also the narration of Sanjay to Dhritarashtra, which was again similar to Lord Krishna giving this Bhagavad-Gita to Arjuna. So this is just more of a historical, the three major narrations that we can understand, apart from the main Gita itself. So this Bhagavad-Gita, it might sound a bit overwhelming, but the whole Mahabharata has got 18 chapters, just like Bhagavad-Gita. And this Bhagavad-Gita is strategically positioned in the 6th chapter of the Mahabharata, as you can see from the top left to the bottom right. And you see the size of the spheres, they indicate the size of each chapter. So if a sphere is big, it's a big chapter. If a sphere is small, it's a small chapter. Just like in Bhagavad Gita, there are different chapters with different verses. So the most favorite chapters of devotees is which chapter? Or which chapters are the most favorite chapters of all the devotees? and why? Anybody would like to share? So which one is the most favorite chapter of the devotees and why?
12, chapter 12.
Okay, why?
It's qualities of devotees,
Because it has quality of devotees. Okay.
and whatever you do for me, Krishna is telling. So
Yes.
so many ways he is showing.
Correct. Krishna says how to become dear to Krishna
Yes.
in this chapter at the end, especially the last few verses. But you know why I like this chapter? Chapter 12. I also like chapter 15. You know why I like them? Because they're the shortest chapters.
Shortest chapter, yeah, 20 slokas.
Yeah, they're the shortest chapters in Bhagavad-Gita, these two. So this is the positioning of Bhagavad-Gita. So when was this Bhagavad-Gita spoken? For those of you who are into numbers and would like to really know the exactness of the actual date and time, they can refer to this book by Sadharmata Prabhu. He has written this book based on Vedic cosmology and astronomy. And according to him, this Kali-yuga began on February 18th to 3102 BC. So it is said that when Maharaj Parikshit, he left, that's when Kali actually in full force started. The Kali Yuga actually started in full force. And so from that period onwards, we can understand with a proper date that this is how long we have gone into this Kali Yuga. So you can do the calculations for that. So this is one of the very important verses from Gita Mahatmyam. And sometimes, you know, we all know about Bhagavad Gita. We know it is very good for us. But it is also good to, especially occasions like this, understand the importance and benefits of Bhagavad Gita. Sometimes we take it a bit lightly or take it, we are not able to really appreciate the jewel that we have got or we are fortunate to get. So here it is said, Sahayo jayate shigram yatra gita pravartate yatra gita vicharascha pathanam pathanam shrutam tatraham nishchitam prithvi nivasami sadaivahi. Would somebody like to help me read the translation, please?
Help comes quickly where the Gita is recited, and, O earth, I ever dwell where it is read, heard, taught, and contemplated upon.
Very nice. Very nice. So what does it say? Sahayo jayate shigram. Help. Sahaya means sahayak. Whenever we need help. Do we need help or we don't need help? No, I don't need help. I'm on my own. Can we say that? No, we all need help. At every point. We need help with our spiritual life. We need help with our material life. We need help at every point in our life. But we don't know whom to ask for help. So it is said that help will come very quickly. Where? Where Gita is recited. And O earth, this is a conversation with Prithvi. So O earth, I ever dwell. Where it is read, heard, taught, and contemplated. So 4 things are important. Of course, even if you keep Bhagavad Gita as it is, you get the benefit. But you'll get very little benefit. Like very, very little. But real help will come to that place where Bhagavad Gita is constantly, 4 things are happening with Bhagavad Gita. So if we have got a Bhagavad Gita at home, then we should be doing these 4 things. And what are the 4 things? We have to read it. Then we have to hear it regularly from senior devotees, from devotees, senior devotees, guru. Then after we read and hear, what we have to do? If we do not do the 3rd thing, then our reading and hearing will slacken. And that is, we have to teach. And that's why we have to preach. If you don't preach, you cannot teach. If you cannot teach, you will never read and you will never hear. And when you teach, what happens? The fourth thing happens. You start contemplating. Contemplating means thinking about that subject matter. Just like when some devotee is told to give a class, they start contemplating, they start thinking. But that thinking will happen when we have this mood of spreading this knowledge to others by teaching them. And that has to be preceded by hearing and reading on a regular basis. So this ISKCON now has come up with this whole concept of books are the basis, where they are encouraging every devotee to read Prabhupada's books every day. And one of the easiest way to get into that habit is to join the next Bhakti Shastri course that starts in February next year. And many of you who are listening today and watching have already done the course, and some of you might be keen to do that, to do the next batch. If you haven't already, this is an opportunity. If you spend 2 years reading and hearing Bhagavad-Gita, naturally you will have the opportunity to contemplate on. And who gets the benefit? You get the benefit. Help will always be. This is the assurance of the Supreme Lord. Then another point in Gita Mahatmyam, which was spoken, so there are different Gita Mahatmyams. One is the one that we saw. There is another one where Lord Shiva is telling Parvati. And as part of the Mahatmyam, Lord Vishnu says, can somebody read this one translation, please?
Lord Vishnu said, I myself have manifested in the form of Bhagavad-Gita. Please understand that the first 5 chapters are my 5 heads. The next 10 chapters are my 10 arms. And the 16th chapter is my stomach. The last 2 chapters are my lotus feet. In this way, you should understand the transcendental deity of the Bhagavad-Gita.
So Bhagavad-Gita is non-different from the deity of Krishna. So just like we care for and respect the deity nicely in an altar, Bhagavad-Gita should also be respected nicely, kept nicely. We don't have to keep it in the altar. We can keep it nicely, respectfully in a nice place, but we should not just open the Bhagavad-Gita and leave it somewhere or keep some things on top of the Bhagavad-Gita. Would you just keep Krishna anywhere, a deity? No. So we should respect Bhagavad-Gita and think of Bhagavad-Gita as actually the deity of Krishna himself. And that will help us in not only contemplating on the subject matter, but treating Bhagavad-Gita in an appropriate way. Okay, there is another one that talks about Gita being the supreme, the gist of all Vedic knowledge. Can somebody just read the translation, please?
Yes, it was spoken by the blessed Lord Krishna, the all-knowing, through his own mouth to Arjuna. It contains the essence of the Vedas. The knowledge of the reality is full of supreme bliss. Commentary, the Bhagavad Gita contains the cream of the Vedas and universal scriptures studied for people of all temperaments and for all
Ages. Very nice. Is that Keshava?
Yes.
Fantastic. We need to give him a big hand. Fantastic. Thank you so much, Keshav.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Okay, this is one of my favorites. I'll tell you why. Vibhagam patamanastu Ganga stana phalam labhe Saptam samjapamanastu Soma yajna phalam labhe. Translation? Somebody else?
He who recites 1/3 part of it achieves the merit of a bath in the sacred river Ganges, and who recites 1/6 of it attains the merit of performing a Soma sacrifice, a kind of ritual. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
So, see, everything has a shortcut. If we recite the full Bhagavad-Gita, fantastic. But we may not have the opportunity to sit and recite all the verses. So this is a shortcut. In fact, there's more shortcut, but I said, let's not take too many shortcuts. Let's take two nice shortcuts. So he who recites 1/3 of what? Of Bhagavad-Gita. 1/3 meaning there are 18 chapters. So 1/3 is 6 chapters. So if you recite 6 chapters, one achieves the merit of a bath in the sacred Ganga river. Especially when we are not able to go and take a dip, we don't really need to, even if we can. Just by reciting 6 chapters, we get that benefit. What to talk about 6 chapters? If one recites 1/6, meaning 3 chapters, if anybody recites 3 chapters, they get the merit of performing a Soma sacrifice, which practically is impossible to do in the age of Kali. So 3 chapters, imagine. So if you got chapter 12, you got chapter 15. So just 40 verses, 2 chapters covered. And then we can take any other chapter, preferably chapter 7 or 9. And within 15 minutes, easily 3 chapters can be recited. And if you are used to, you know the chapters a little bit, even faster. So in 15 minutes, a Soma sacrifice can be done, which in reality, in Kali Yuga, you can't do the actual sacrifice at all. So isn't this a shortcut? If this is not a shortcut, what is? And then there is some people who say, is it Upanishad? Is it Shruti? Is it Smriti? What is it? So this kind of clarifies. Somebody would like to read this?
Yes.
Yeah, go on, Prabhu.
Gita is drawn from the Mahabharata. It is classified as a Smriti text. However, those branches of Hinduism that give it the status of an Upanishad also consider it as Shruti or revealed text, as it is taken to represent a summary of the Upanishadic teachings. It is also called the Upanishad of the Upanishads. Thank you, Prabhu.
Okay, thank you very much, Prabhuji. So it is called Upanishad. So Upanishad are the confidential parts of the Vedas. But it is also referred to as Smriti. Smriti is memory, something that you remember. And it is also called a Shruti. So Shruti is something that you hear and you remember. When you hear from higher authority, which is revealed to you, it is also the Shruti, it is also Smriti. So there's only one scripture that falls in all the categories. And so this is considered the essence. Everything that we need to know to function optimally in our day-to-day life is there in Bhagavad Gita. Okay, anybody knows the 5 topics that are there in Bhagavad Gita? I'm sure all the Bhakti Shastri students know them.
Yes, yes, Prabhu.
Yes.
Ishar,
Ishwar,
Jiva,
Jiva,
Prakriti,
Prakriti.
Kal, and Karma.
Yes. Full marks. So 5 topics of Bhagavad Gita. Now, why are these 5 things important? Of course, we'll go into detail when we join for Bhakti Shastri, but just to give just a gist. So we need to know about the Supreme Lord. the controller, the creator, and that is Ishwar. And part of Ishwar, part and parcel of Ishwaras are the Jivas. And Jivas, because they want to enjoy and become like an Ishwar, they are given the opportunity to be bound or to come to this material world and be bound by the laws of Prakriti, material nature. How does material nature bind the Jiva? Through time, Kal. And because the Jiva is bound in this material world through Kal or time, the Jiva is forced to do activities. So whether it is karma or akarma or vikarma, they are forced to do activities. So these are the 5 topics right across the board. So now let's look at we are talking about Bhagavad Gita's advent. So what are actually the benefits of Bhagavad Gita's advent? What are the actual effects? So just like we see, Bhagavad Gita was narrated by Krishna to Arjun, and there was an effect. Bhagavad Gita was also narrated by Sanjay to Dhritarashtra. Was the effect the same? The information was the same. As Krishna told Arjun, same thing Sanjay told Dhritarashtra. But what was the impact on Arjun and what was the impact of Dhritarashtra? Were they the same?
No.
No. Why? Why was it not the same? Question to ask.
Prabhuji, Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu.
This is because Arjuna was excessively faithfully and surrendered to Krishna.
Correct. So Arjun he had full faith and he surrendered unto whatever Krishna told him in terms of information and in terms of the choices that were given to him. And Dhritarashtra, on the other hand, he was told these narrations, but he took these narrations as what? Just like we watch a Bollywood movie, Do we watch a Bollywood movie with faith, with full faith, that whatever I'm watching is actually true? No.
No.
For us, it's just entertainment, we're just hearing something. We hear the news, something is going on, and we just hear it and we forget about it. We don't care much. Dhritarashtra also heard from Sanjaya the happenings, and for him it was just news. Because if you recollect, before the war began, Vyasadeva actually came to Dhritarashtra and he said, the war is inevitable and the result of this war is also decided. All your children will be helplessly killed in this battle. But I give you the benediction, although you are blind, I give you the benediction of actually witnessing the war from your palace. And Dhritarashtra said, oh my God, my sons are going to die. What is the point seeing them die? I don't want eyes. I don't want eyes. Don't give me. Maybe somebody can just update me about what's going on. That is fine for me. So then Vyasadeva gave Sanjay the divine vision to not only see all that is going on the battlefield. Sanjay was given the benediction of seeing everything, whether it is daytime or nighttime. So irrespective of the light being there in terms of material vision, Sanjay could see anything. Not only anything to see, he could also see or hear the thoughts of all those people who were assembled in Kurukshetra. That benediction also he had. And the third benediction was that he will never be tired. He can constantly narrate. So for the entire duration of the war, he was constantly narrating. So you can imagine if somebody is doing a running commentary like all these matches, especially one-day cricket matches or these test matches, where for one full day or for 5 full days somebody speaks. Now, one person does not even have the ability to speak for 1 full day. Forget 1 full day, not even half a day. So there are so many commentators. There's 3-4 people who take turns and they give the commentary. So you can imagine Sanjay was giving constant commentary for all these days. The war went on for 18 days and he was constantly giving commentary, starting to the end, and he was never tired. And that was the benediction given to him by Vyasadeva. So, as we said, Bhagavad-Gita started why? Why Bhagavad-Gita was required? Because Arjun was in this shape. He had come to fight a battle, the Dharma Yudh. He was eagerly waiting all these years while he was in exile, collecting so many celestial weapons from Shiva, from Indra, so many personalities. And when the time came for him to fight, what happened to him? He was bewildered. Of course, we should not compare his bewilderment with our bewilderment. This was the plan of Krishna so that he can actually give us a solution for our bewilderment. And he used his own devotee to show us the way. So Arjun was bewildered. He lost his composure and he could not perform his duty. He could not do the task that he was meant to perform as a Kshatriya, as a king, and he failed. And that's when this knowledge was given to a person who's bewildered, a person who's failed in his duty. To such a person, this knowledge was given. And as Prabhu just said, this knowledge is there for everybody. Dhritarashtra was also given this knowledge, but how did he accept it is the important part. So likewise, Bhagavad-Gita information is there for all of us, but how many of us are accepting the instructions of Bhagavad-Gita and in what spirit? That is the key thing. So till chapter 2, text 7, Shishyaste aham sadhimam tvam prapannam. So till Arjun actually becomes a completely surrendered disciple of his friend Krishna, till Arjun becomes a servant and surrendered soul, Krishna does not impart the teachings of Bhagavad-Gita. He just has this conversation, but he does not give an information. So similarly, until we are surrendered to a pure devotee of the Lord, until we serve the pure devotee of the Lord, the flow of knowledge will never happen. So sometimes we see when we start reading Bhagavad Gita on our own, or we find people around us who try and do it on their own, they couldn't understand. Why? Because they're not following the process. So the first thing is to have faith and listen with complete surrender, as Arjun is doing here. And when that happens, something amazing happens. So this Bhagavad Gita, sometimes people say, what is this Bhagavad Gita? This is a philosophy. This is a book that incites violence. This is a book that is not meant for young people. It's for old people before you die. And there's so much things going on, wrong conceptions in people's mind. So if we have to actually tell somebody in a very simple language without getting into technical words or philosophy, how can we portray this Bhagavad Gita? We know it's a manual of life, whatever that means. But how is it the manual of life? That we should also know. And to understand that, this is a pie chart, which you might find interesting. So Bhagavad Gita is meant for our all-round development. And for a human being's all-round development, there are 4 sections of his life that need to be developed. If you do not develop even one part or one section, then the development cannot be called all-round development. There is always some gap. There is always something missing. So for all-round development, there are 4 parts. First part is, it is a physical quotient. Like it's a quotient, it's like a division. So this pie, the first important part is, it has to benefit us physically. Second part, it has to benefit us intellectually. Intelligence, Krishna has given us intelligence. So if we have intelligence, we need something to contemplate on. So that's the second part. Third, it needs to satisfy our emotional quotient. We have some emotional needs. We have got some physical needs, we've got some intellectual needs, we've got some emotional needs. And then we have got the last one, and the most important one, which people around us, especially in today's context, they have either divorced themselves from it or they have a completely wrong understanding of it. And that is the spiritual quotient. So there is very little information in this world that actually takes care of all these. So even amongst scriptures, there are different scriptures which may be dealing with different aspects, but there is no scripture that talks about complete all-round development. And Bhagavad-Gita actually talks about all-round development. And Srila Prabhupada has given us the process by which we can connect ourselves with Bhagavad-Gita by following certain regulations throughout the day, throughout our lives, every day, so that all these 4 aspects of our life are developed and we can have all-round benefit. How is it? This is how it is. So first is, I know it might be a bit overwhelming, but the red part, if you see first, is a physical part. So by reading Bhagavad Gita, we get the knowledge. And by getting knowledge, automatically we understand that whatever we eat has to be offered to the deities. We only accept prasadam. We worship deities at home. It ensures that our life becomes very disciplined. We get up, sleep at the right times. And our life is regulated by Mangalarti. So these 3 things are very important. Also, when we are doing kirtan or we are singing, we sway, we dance, we clap our hands, go to the temple. So by all these things, by food, by the right diet, and by the right physical activity, we maintain good health. And that is a primary information that Bhagavad Gita gives. Do your duty. Second part is intellectual. So Bhagavad Gita helps us stir our intelligence. How? By regularly studying Bhagavad Gita. The philosophy of Bhagavad Gita is not just to memorize the shlokas, is not just to memorize them, the philosophy, and just throw it upon others. No, we have to understand the philosophy and apply it in our lives, and then share it with others. So regular study of the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam also, which is Bhagavad Shravan, will ensure our intelligence is always engaged in the right way. And when the intelligence is engaged, then the intelligence can engage our mind properly. Otherwise, like in chapter 6, Krishna says, Arjun says that I cannot control my mind. It is easy to control the wind and control my mind. So that's the second aspect. Third aspect is the emotional aspect, where we all need love. We all want to love and we want to be loved. We all want security. We all want to give security to our dependents. And that happens when we associate with devotees in sadhu sangha. We should not forget that our family is also a place where we have to preach. We have a responsibility towards our family. So devotee association is not just outside our family, our immediate family and our extended family, that is Prabhupada's family, is all about association. We need to associate and exchange love amongst each other. So that will ensure that we never have to visit psychiatrists. Devotees, they don't even know what psychiatrist is because they're very content, happy, and satisfied. And the last one, the most important one, is spiritual. So by connecting ourselves with Bhagavad-Gita, by following the process, which is the glorification of the holy name, by chanting the holy name, we revive our lost relationship with the Supreme Lord. So japa with Bhagavad-Gita is very important. Unless we read Bhagavad-Gita, we will not develop that taste to chant. And unless we chant, we will not get the taste to read Bhagavad-Gita. So they kind of go hand in hand. We cannot say start this and then we go there. It has to be done simultaneously. So if we connect ourselves to scriptures, if we connect ourselves with in the association of devotees, and we chant the holy name of the Lord regularly, then our physical, intellectual, emotional, and spiritual aspects will be well-rounded, will be well-developed, and we feel happy, satisfied, and blissful from inside. And that is the contribution of Bhagavad-Gita in our lives, provided we are sincerely studying it and contemplating it. And then we are ready, like Arjun, to follow the instructions of Krishna and fight the battle of our life. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai. And become blissful devotees just like this. So we become blissful and we spread the bliss to people all around us. Thank you very much. Prabhupada ki jai, Gita Jayanti ki jai, Jai Gaur Premanande. Thank you very much.
So much. Thank you so much, Krishna.